how do you convert Figma into Lovable or V0 or Replit or Bold or maybe even Cursor. I decided to compare all of the solutions that are worth mentioning. Here are the options that I have compared. So if you don't want to watch all of the video, you can skip to the part which you find the most interesting. We start with image to prompt, then we'll cover Build.io, Anima, Locofy, Figma Make, and Figma MCP. I will explain what are advantages and disadvantages. We will focus on pixel perfection. Our goal is to create prototypes exactly like our design in Figma. Who would be interested in watching this? Primarily designers. Designers and PMs, those who already invested a lot of time creating high fidelity designs, and now they want to build prototypes based off those designs. It can be also applicable to solo builders and front-end developers. I would be interested to know your opinion because we are covering your territory here, but you probably would have more advanced flows. So we are focusing on low code flows for people who don't understand code. Okay, let's get started. Before we go into covering all the options, I want to cover some basics. When we are working in AI prototyping tools, we are technically writing code. Even if we don't look at this code, we are producing code. Frontend consists of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. In their pure form, they are called vanilla HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. But the functional dynamic applications that we're seeing nowadays, they are rarely written on HTML, JavaScript, and CSS in their pure form. They're written on frameworks. Here are the frameworks. We have React, we have Angular, we have Vue, we have Svelte. Well, there are some more exotic versions. If you're talking about native applications, there are also frameworks there. React Native and Flutter. Some of those words might sound familiar. If you are in design for some time, you probably heard the word React. This is the framework that is most common for modern web applications. What do frameworks give us? They provide us rules and building blocks and patterns, so we can write those applications faster, they are more durable, and they're also more consistent. I will cover Lovable primarily, but what I'm talking about is very much applicable to V0, to Bold and Replit. If you're using Replit, continue watching. This is still very relevant for you. Those three guys, let's say Lovable and V0, they are only producing code in React. If you want to have application written in different frameworks, for example, Angular and Vue, potentially we might want to produce some code that might go to production. And that's why it might be important for us to care about what framework we use and if it's going to be compatible with the rest of the code base. If you know that the rest of the code base is written in Angular and you want to reuse the code that you are producing with AI prototyping tool, then you cannot use either of those three tools. Lovable, V0, and Figma Make are not for you. You can do Replit and Bold, but they are more flexible. And Cursor obviously can write in any tech stack. We are going to talk about React in this video, but parts of it might be applicable to other frameworks. We also need to cover those two guys, ShadCN and Tailwind CSS. ShadCN is a UI library. Other UI libraries that you might be familiar with are probably Material UI, Base UI, Bootstrap is a very famous one. ShadCN is one of those libraries. I will not cover advantages and disadvantages. I will just say this is the library that is used by all of the AI prototyping tools by default. Some AI prototyping tools would be okay adopting other libraries. At least they will try. For example, Lovable can produce stuff in Material UI, but when it cannot find the right component, it will fall back to ShadCN. And it's fine. It's mixing with other libraries pretty well. No worries about that. Then we are talking about Tailwind CSS. What is Tailwind CSS? It's the utility that allows us to write CSS inside our React code. What it also has is a list of variables for all sorts of styles. Color styles, typography styles, maybe border radiuses, and those kind of things. If you're producing code that is using ShadCN and Tailwind CSS, you don't need to care about those components. You would have cleaner code, and also you will be able to exchange codes between different tools. For example, if you have a component that's built in Lovable, you can put it in V0 and it will still work. It's really nice. Okay, so now we covered the basics. Let's see what we are going to do today. As I mentioned already, we are going to compare those 6 options, and we will see which of those options will give us the best precision, so that would look the most like our Figma. Then we'll compare the simplicity, how difficult it is to use one of those tools, and also how fast it is to use them. Some of them are paid, so we will compare the cost as well. Something else we need to keep in mind is how organized Figma should. How much time do we need to invest into making our Figma file really well structured? Because some of those tools would only work when you use auto layout, styles, and variables, and you don't group random layers. This is important because when you are prototyping, then you might be faster to sketch certain things in Figma, to throw some layers on top of another, don't bother about naming them and styling them, and then jump into coding right away. You always need to balance how much effort do you need to put into organizing your design versus how fast you get to a prototype. And that brings us to the image in prompt. What I mean here is that we just take a screenshot, we export our Figma mockup as an image and attach it to our prompt. What we are going to do is build this application that's a hiking community events page. It is not perfectly structured. Some of the components, like for example this component, I invested a little bit of time in breaking it down, using auto layouts. It's fairly okay, and it also tends to give pretty good results when I'm converting it into code. But then, for example, this table is not really well structured, so there's just a bunch of layers just grouped together. This will give us some comparison how those tools will handle messy mockups. So we just export this file. We'll kick off the brand new project in Lovable for each of the version. Then we will add some components. We will add this page, which would be event detail page, which is also okay organized. And we will see how it can handle adding components into existing project. So I'm going to export it as a PNG. And I have very simple prompt. I'm going to use the same prompt for all of the options. We are building a hiking community. This is the first page. It displays a list of activities with some filters. And please use this design, and use the design to implement it as closely as possible. This is it. While Lovable is building, I can say that I know I've tried it a few times. It's not going to be very precise. It will implement a page roughly the same. It will only use it as inspiration. It will probably use the general style, but it will certainly not be pixel perfect. And it's a blessing and a curse. First of all, as we can already guess, we don't care how well our Figma is organized. Even if I didn't name the layers, I don't use auto layout, it would be the same result. And that might be a positive thing. You can just throw things in Figma real quickly, use it as a notebook, and that's pretty much how I use Figma nowadays. I just shuffle things around and then I start vibe coding right away. It also doesn't have to be in Figma. It can be any other design tool. I wouldn't discount this option. This will not give us precision that we are looking for, but you don't need to invest much time into polishing the visuals before you start building. Here we have the result, and as you can see, it's not super precise, so it's more or less resembling what I gave. Some of the styles are off. Here is the original version, and it's quite responsive, so it's pretty good. We have drop downs that are working. The mobile version is pretty good. We need to do some work to polish it, to make it look like our brand and stuff. And by the way, that's what I'm also teaching on the workshops, how to brand those things consistently, like without having to restyle every single component every time. It would be a good starting point. It's also quite interactive, so things are moving. And I can imagine it's also a quite nice code under the hood, so that's something that we can scale Let's do the second part and build this page. So I exported it, we continue same, and we say, can you please create a new component that's called event details. Design for this component is attached. Each of the events on the events page should open into this full screen model that shows events details. And I will attach the design. And in the meantime, let's go and rank the performance. Okay, so image and prompt precision, well, it's not completely off, so I would say it's okay. It's not good, but expected. Simplicity, it was very simple. Speed, it was good. It was pretty fast. Cost, also good. Maybe just to balance it off, let's put this one. Let's be very critical. How well your Figma should be organized doesn't have to be organized at all. So here we also have this. Lovable has finished this page, and as you can see, it's not exactly the same. All the content is there, the idea is there, but visually it doesn't look the same. It doesn't look here. On the other hand, it is responsive, so the page is not bad. And all buttons behave like buttons, although they're not really very consistently styled. That brings us to the second option, Builder.io. First of all, that's the option that Lovable will give us if we try to import from Figma. When we press here, we will see Build.io plugin. Let's go directly to Figma and see what it shows us. So we're going to implement this page again. Go to dev mode. I guess you can also use it from design mode. So starting with the UX is confusing. We select the frame, so I have selected the frame here, and we start the export, classic export. And it will take a while, and it's very important when it started generating, we shouldn't touch anything, because as soon as I click outside here, it will cancel everything. So the UX of this tool is questionable. Guys, if you're hearing this, please do something. It's horrible. Finished generating, and it took a while, a few minutes, and it gave us two options. You can just pick one of those options. I'll pick the second one, and then it shows us this incredible number of buttons. First of all, we can open it in Lovable, and let's do that, and I will explain why you probably shouldn't do it normally. It will start a brand new Lovable project from scratch, but it will not allow us to give any additional instructions. The first prompt tends to be quite important, and you want to have a possibility to add some comments. Build.io doesn't give us this possibility, and this flow only works when you want to start a new project. When you want to build a component into an existing project, you would have to use a different flow, and I will show it for the detail page. This is what it is. It's closer to what I have designed. There's a lot of mess going on here. That's what I said, my Figma is not very well organized, but to be fair, it could be worse. Here as well, some funny things going on. What we can see also, it's not that interactive. Remember this one, there were some hover effects and stuff, and this one is completely static. So buttons, they are not buttons, filters are not filters, but the colors, they are my colors. And the layout is pretty good. Let's see the responsive version. Responsive version also sucks. Let's see what it will do for an additional page. We go back here and we do this thing once again. We select the frame, like this one. So now we select this frame and we press this button again in Build.io. We do classic export and we will start this thing again. We shouldn't touch anything. Finished again. It shows me these two options. It's hard to see which one is better. Second one again. And this time we will not open it in Lovable, but we will open it in Builder. I see this beautiful interface. So guess which button we should press? We should generate code. So we need to press this obscure button. Remember it, it's here down there, generate code. And again, don't touch anything. It will take a while. It will basically analyze this page and we'll break it down onto different components. So for example, it started generating this gallery thing and we can see it's using Tailwind. So that's how Tailwind looks like, and all those classes. We finished generating. As you see, it gave us a bunch of different components. And what we need to do now is we take this code, go into our project, give it a prompt. I would like to make an event details component. You should open a full screen model and use the code below to show content in the model. We just copy paste the code for every component, just one after another. Yeah, just like this. A little bit of copy pasting work. So we have all of them. Lovable has finished, and we can see that some of the events, not all of them, some of them have this hover effect when I open this, and honestly that is not too bad. I'd say it's quite similar to what we had compared to this previous one. Is closer to what I wanted to have. That's the thing with Build.io. I think it works better with smaller components, especially because there are less things to copy paste. Let's go and rank it. I would say precision is not bad. Simplicity, it's also okay. It's a little bit more difficult than image, but it's not crazy difficult, right? You don't need to install too many things. Speed, it's not the fastest. Cost is good. It's free, so I didn't have to pay anything until now. And how well your Figma should be organized. As we saw, it does depend a lot on Figma structure. And that brings us to the third plugin. We're talking about Anima now. We need to install Anima plugin, so good. And then we select the frame. We didn't press anything, it already started working. Here we can decide what we want to use. So we want to use React. We can choose a library, which is really nice. So we can choose ShadCN as a library. Then we can see TypeScript or JavaScript. We can also opt for Tailwind. That's really cool. While we're speaking, it gives us this code. And then we do exactly the same. We copy paste it, except that now I'm only copying this little thing, which is a little bit annoying. But we'll see how it will manage with at least this table, because this is the most difficult part. So we go to Lovable and we say, I'm building a hiking application. Can you please implement the events page using this code? It should have the list of events in the design that I have attached. Use this code for the table. And I'm copy pasting it just like before. We also have Tailwind configuration files, so they contain our colors and maybe typography and those kind of things. So I'm also going to copy paste here and Tailwind CSS. So we are back and this is what we got. That's not ideal, but remember we only gave this component, right? And the layout is still not great. Like it doesn't follow exactly the same structure. But to be fair, maybe I just picked the wrong table because this table is really not well organized. So it didn't do a very good job. This is Lovable did on its own from the image that I provided. So we can give all the credits to Lovable for doing that. Yeah, but Anima didn't really help us much. Okay, let's give it another shot and see how it will handle the event details. Oh, it accepted. So it's nice. So it's not too big for the free version. So now we need to wait a little bit. And we also see that it broken down it on multiple components as well. So we have 3 files that we need to copy paste. Yes, we will ignore the Tailwind stuff. So we just copy those things. And then we go to Lovable, same project. Please open each event from the events page in the full screen model and show the event details. Create a new component that's called event details and use this code for the display content of this component. We'll see what it will make out of it, but I guess we can go ahead and rank Anima in the meantime. To be honest, when I was experimenting with it earlier, I was quite positive. So I'd say it might work for some of the small components, and maybe when you have a paid version, maybe it's actually quite good. But yeah, since we didn't succeed very well today, I would say it failed. The speed was also not fantastic, and the cost was this. Figma should be quite well organized. The next one would be Locofy. So Locofy is a similar thing like Build.io and Anima. So we will also find this Locofy thing. You need to register, log in, create an account. It's also paid, but they give free tokens. So we'll see how far those tokens will take us. Maybe also not super far. I'm selecting this thing. I use Locofy Lightning version, pretty much the same thing. Analyzes our page. So this is what Locofy gives us. It shows us some issues. I imagine that they are about the layouts and suggests us to get code. So let's press this one. Let's do single component. Here's what we got, and this is good. I can imagine we can just continue building here, but we want to take it to our vibe coding tools. We just copy everything that we have here and quite a few components. We also can see them here. So it's events, filters. The good thing that it highlights us everything that we need. I would say that's a very nice tool so far. Let's kick a new Lovable project. Hey, I am building a hiking community application, and this is the events page. Please build it using this code. I exported this zip file, and that's what I have inside. I'm copy pasting all of the components, and I just include them here. So here's what we've got. And it is impressive. Not ideal. The layout is really good. Let's see if it's not responsive. It's still, it's a good start. The downside is that it basically drained most of my free credits. I have 100 out of 600 credits left. So the free version will not take you very far. But it's fine. It seems like it's a good tool. So you might even consider paying for it if other options that I'm going to show you are not satisfying. Let's go ahead and rank it. Precision, I would say, is so far really good. It's even better than Build.io. So let's give Build.io smile minus, and Locofy we give smile plus. Simplicity, it wasn't super simple, right? Yeah, I still need to do a lot of copy pasting. You need to figure out which component is what. Speed, yeah, okay. Cost, no. I have to pay. I don't know how much you need to pay, but we need to pay. How Figma should be organized. It did better job with poorly organized Figma, so I would give it a smile. So it did much better than Build.io. Figma Make is doing the same thing as Lovable. Let's see how it is different. Let's try to build this thing in Figma Make and see what we can do with this code. I'm going to kick a new project. I say, I'm building a hiking community. This is the events page. Can you please implement this events page as close as possible to design attached? And then I copy paste the frame here and I'll see what happens. Here's what I came up with. And the first time I saw it, I was like, wow, this is exactly like my design. The only thing is like nothing is interactive. Basically, it's like an image. You can select text in it, but that's an image. But it is very precise. Then I looked into code because I still want to take it into my AI prototyping tool. Let's say I'm building something in Lovable already. The question is why? Maybe I can just continue building here. Okay, I will open you my cart right away. First of all, those things, GitHub and Superbase, they don't work properly. They have them here, but either it's a crazy limit functionality. I didn't manage to get it work at all. You can't really make this thing into a functional prototype with dynamic data and connected to an AI model. This is all not about Figma, but maybe you don't need that. Maybe you can still work with this. Maybe if you only need visual prototype, precision, maybe it's good enough. It's not interactive though at all. Then maybe I can make it more interactive. So what if I say here, can you make the filters in the events page interactive? Maybe we'll do something. But from my experience, it's pretty dumb. It looks great, but it doesn't do anything. Then when I look at the code, and that's where things started to fall apart for me. So I would go to imports and I would see this page and would scroll for this. And you don't need to understand code to understand this is really bad code. So basically it doesn't make any sense. What they do, they basically put all layers that I have in my design with absolute positioning, no semantics, nothing. And they just basically implement pixel by pixel my prototype without putting any kind of, okay, this is a button, then probably it should behave like a button. This is an input field, it should behave like an input field. No, they just implemented the rectangles with HTML, but they don't mean anything. And when I want to use this code, I want to take it to Lovable so I can build in my other tool. I start a new project, I give exactly the same comment. I'm building a hiking community and this is the events page. Can you please implement the events page using the code below? And I will also attach the design just for reference. And then I'll see what code I have. So here's the code that I downloaded from Figma. I have styles, so I will also give some styles variables just in case. And I need the component. Import this event. Clean up the code to make it semantic and replace ShadCN components when it makes sense. In the meantime, I asked Figma Make implement filters, as you remember, and it did the filters. Like it did something with that, but it basically collapsed on its own code. So it is horrible. So let's give it another try and let's ask it, while my Lovable is built in, let's ask it to build this event page. Open each event from the events page in a full screen model and show the event details like on the design attached. And then I'm attaching my design. Lovable finished with Figma code and basically it rebuilt everything. So it does look like my design, but not exactly. Right? It basically just rewrote all the code according to its standards, so we lost all the pixel perfection and it took a while. So I guess it costed it a lot of credits. So it would have been faster just to attach a screenshot. So this is the result we got from screenshot. It's not exactly much better using the Figma Make code. So what it means, Figma Make code is basically unusable. That's complete nonsense. It only gives you a slightly more interactive version of your Figma files. So I would guess Figma Make decided to take a path of pixel perfection, although they are failing on this path occasionally. Yeah, okay, this one implemented. Okay, but I would assume their code is still not visible. So let's give it another shot. So we have this other component with event details. Believe me, this is not good code. And on top of that, it's so long. So this is not, you saw the previous, the Locofy, there was just a few lines of code for exactly the same component. Here it's complete nonsense. So let's see what Lovable will make out of it. Hey, can you open each event in event details page using the code below? It should be in a full screen model, and the code of the model is, then I copy paste this crop code, and hopefully Lovable will hit it. But here it doesn't look too bad. If I ask to make it responsive, can you make it responsive? From my experience, it wouldn't do anything. To be honest, Figma Make, I don't see many use cases for it, at least not how I envision the design future, right? You start vibe coding because eventually you would hand over code to developers. You can participate in editing production ready code. But here you're not generating anything close to production ready. So it just is very much focused on prototyping, and you don't even want to look into code. And even in the prototyping, it's not exactly doing a very good job. So when you ask exactly the same things from Lovable and Figma make this thing responsive, or create this flow, and some of the things you would have designed and some things you wouldn't have designed, I would not do exactly a good job. In the meantime, let's see how Lovable dealt with the code, and here's what we have. And it's not too bad. I'd say it's okay. Considering that you see this button looks like a button, and obviously Lovable rewrote code, but it kept the layout and added this interaction. So if you go back to Figma and try to open this thing, there are no interactions. And here we have different photos. So it means that Lovable did all this. The button barely works. It's not interactive button. So we can give all the credits to Lovable, but it made sense out of Figma Make code, which is good news. I would say, I think you can use Figma Make for some of the code export. So maybe some of the smaller components, not entire pages, but I wouldn't say it's a very reliable workflow. Let's go ahead and rank it. So what do we do with Figma Make? Precision. Okay, we have to give it that. It is precise. Even though it didn't care at all how Figma is structured. So it didn't care that our layouts were not really well organized, because it's just implementing them pixel by pixel. That's why nothing is responsive. Okay, simplicity, it was super simple. It was very simple. Speed is okay. Cost is okay. Okay, we need to get like a new one. Code reusability. We would say, okay, here the code is a complete, oh shit, it's not good code. In others, I would say we have okay code. I think that's, so far from my experience, it was usable code. And that brings me to the last option, which is Figma MCP. And this is also my favorite. It's also the most difficult. I'm not going to say like Figma does everything wrong, because MCP is actually pretty good. And there are multiple ways to use it. And we will need a little bit of setting up for it. I'm not going to do the setup. You need to have the IDE. I would use Cursor. You can also use Windsurf, Visual Studio. It is worth the investment because it saves you a lot of time. And once you have it set up, it's flawless. It works much, much better than anything above. There are multiple ways to use Figma MCP for exporting designs, and we will start from the one when we don't have at all in the beginning. So we still stick with Lovable as our prototyping tool of choice, But why I do that? Lovable is more intuitive for kind of design, building front end. In Cursor, you need to be a little bit more specific. And also Lovable provides you with all the ecosystem. The preview is there, public sharing is there. It's just easier to start using. But Cursor might very much be the next step. How do we get started? As I said, I already set up MCP. When we are in dev mode, we can see this MCP server enabled. You enable it once, you don't touch it anymore. Then you go to Cursor, you need to set it up a little bit in settings to enable the connections. I will just open a brand new project. Let's open just something completely new. Start Figma 3. So it's going to be empty, and we can just ask chat, is Figma MCP enabled? It would normally say us yes. If it says us no, then we need to restart either Figma or Cursor. That happens rarely, but it does happen. In this case, Figma MCP is enabled. So that's all we need. And then we can go ahead and copy the screen. We need to have this link of this frame. So we copy this link. We go back to Cursor. We paste it here. And then we say what we want to do with this. So we know that we want to have a React component, and we want to use ShadCN, we want to use Tailwind. And that's what I say. Can you please convert this frame into a single React component? Use ShadCN and Tailwind. While it's doing that, it will take a few minutes. I can say that what is the flexibility? First of all, I said it exactly what I want. I want this one single React component. So I don't want to have 5 components. I can say in human language that I want to have ShadCN and Tailwind in it. And I can also give it multiple screens. So for example, if I want to have a more complex component and I have some different states, I want to have responsive version, non-responsive version, I can give multiple links to all the frames that are relevant for this component. And that's something that you cannot do in any of the other tools. In those other tools, you only select one frame and you basically copy paste it into static code. Here you can say you have all the flexibility. You want to build responsive, you give all the breakpoints, like different design and breakpoints. You want to add functionality, then you can say you have different states for the same, like for example, you have active state, you have an active state, you have this and that, and then you can give it all the links to all the states. And it can also access the variables, kind of the styles and variables and whatever else is defined in our Figma file. It is pretty powerful. So it finished. Took a few minutes, but not too long. And I generated us this file. If you want to have different rules applied to this code, you can also define it in your prompt. What I'm missing is the variables, because I want to kick off this new project. Then I don't have variables. Let's also ask Cursor, can you generate a Tailwind configuration file with all the styles for this page? Let's do a prompt for Lovable. Hey, I'm built-in HiCan community application, and this is the events page. Can you please use this code? I'll give it a screenshot, so just to be fair, because we did it with the previous models. And let's see here, we have global CSS. And let's attach those. So we open them in Finder, and we just give it, attach it to our Lovable prompt. So this is what Figma made with the file that I gave it from Figma MCP. And honestly, it's not fantastic. I would say Figma MCP still depends a lot on the structure of your Figma file. Something to keep in mind. I want to give you another use case, how you can build components into the existing code base, namely existing Lovable code base. And I love this workflow, so I want to share it with you. Let's take one of the examples that we have here. Like, for example, I think this one is the one I like the most, and let's connect it to GitHub. So I connected to GitHub. I already have GitHub connected here. Connect. I transfer my project. In the meantime, I go to cursor. I close this one. So my cursor is already connected to my GitHub. Also something that you need to do in advance. It's pretty straightforward. You just log in and it's there. So we go here and we open this project in GitHub. We need a name. So it's Summit Soirée. How about that? Have a French name. I don't know why I decided to give it a French name, but that's what we have. And then we go to our cursor and we click repository. And actually it's the first one, so we just pick this one. We pick a folder. Select the folder where you want to copy it. And here it is. There are all of my files. What I want to do is I want to build a new page inside it. Start a new chart. There is event details component for each of the event on the events page and show the content like in this design. And then I go and I copy a link from my design. Go back, of course. I use Figma MCP to access this design. Use ShadCN components whenever it's applicable. It just finished generating. Let's yellow them. Let's not review because we don't understand code anyway. And then we need to press this thing that's responsible for GitHub connection. So we need to commit those changes. We need to give a name to our commit. We can commit and push. Then we go into Lovable and you see it already updated. So here in history, we can see that event details, so something that we have just pushed just now, it's already here and we can preview it. And voila, it's awesome. Remember how it used to be? It was really bad. And now it's this. This is not bad. I would say this is not bad. And this is completely generated by Cursor. You didn't spend a single Lovable credit on this. You can continue editing it in Lovable. If you want to continue editing it in Cursor, or maybe your developer would, they just open it in Cursor and then they can add new components, just like this. So for example, let's add this page, exactly the same thing. In case we did some edits in Lovable, we need to pull the changes here. So we need to sync this project to make sure that we are editing the latest version. And here we can say, can you build a new page? It's a home page. Use this design. I can also say, because Cursor is intelligent, I can say, please make it responsive. So I should be able to get to home page when I click logo in the header. And okay, so I just do this. And it will create a brand new page in our code base. So we see Cursor created a bunch of edits in different places. You can go review them. We created this new page and just keep all and go back, home page, give a name to our commit and sync. Go back to Lovable. See, homepage is here. I just switched the tabs and voila, this is the beautiful homepage. It generated the images. I think Cursor did it. It's not the images that I had in Figma, but it's very solid. And look, it's responsive. It's not pixel perfect, right? But also, honestly, my Figma was not great. This one is really not well organized, so there's no auto layouts here whatsoever. It's just random collection of text blocks and images. And as you can see, it's not bad. I think this is a nice workflow. So Figma MCP, precision. It's okay. It's not perfect. Why is it not perfect? Because my Figma is not perfect. That's fair, but it's very good. Simplicity. It depends. It needs a little bit of setting up, but once you're there, it's a very powerful tool. Speed is very good. So it's faster than some of the other tools. Also, you don't really need to copy paste anything. You just commit and it's very clean workflow. cost is basically free. So your free version of Cursor will take you very far. It's very generous. On top of that, you will not spend any of the Lovable credits on those exports. So the price is very good. It's probably even better than here because it's cheaper. So you don't even need to pay for Lovable. It has to be organized pretty well. That's, you need to put this effort ahead. On the other hand, you can do exactly the same thing with screenshots and stuff. It will still understand screenshots, but not use Lovable for that. And code usability is good code. On top of that, it has access to the code base. So I didn't cover this scenario, but for example, what you want a component or like a page that would use other components. For example, you already have, what do we have in our case? So we have this event details component. And actually, I like this thing with the organizer. Maybe I want to use it in some other, like route details, for example. I want to use exactly the same sidebar. I want to use exactly the same gallery. And I can say here, hey, can you create a new component, but it will use that other thing that is already built. To draw a conclusion, I would say my preferred option would be Figma MCP. I think it's really worth an investment to set it up once, and then you can use it for every next project. It's the fastest, it's the cheapest, it's the most reliable. You don't need to copy paste anything. Then if you don't want to do that, I would say Build.io is probably the least effort. Still a lot of copy pasting. I hate the Build.io UX. It's not the most intuitive tool, but it's probably still the simplest because you don't need to set up anything except for the plugin. Other tools, they are probably a little bit better quality, but also requires a little bit more of setting up, and they are also paid. And then when you compare it, Figma MCP is just so much better and it's so much simpler. So why would you even bother with those guys? Let me know what you think. It took me a while to do all those experiments and this research, so I hope it's useful for you. As I say, I'm a product designer myself, and I'm mostly talking to product designers and trying to cover their use cases. Might be an overkill for solo builders. It might be an underkill for front-end developers. I'm really curious. What do you think about this, guys? I have my judgment of the code quality, but what would you say? I'm really curious to see how this collaboration will evolve. Let me know. What is your workflow? If you have tried it, let me know how it went for you. And I'm super happy to hear back from you.